G'day, hi, and welcome. Alright, I got another one of these voiceover videos again. And today's topic is about lane splitting. Okay, up here in Canada, we're not allowed to lane split, and it seems to be a bit of a fierce debate on whether it's a good idea or not. So, for me, am I for it? Am I against it? I'm not sure. The arguments for it are basically, it's safer because you're not sitting in front of... basically, you're not sitting in front of, in idle in traffic with the possibility of somebody coming up behind you and ramming into you, which can happen and has happened to many motorcyclists. And the other argument is that because people are so sporadic in traffic, splitting in between them is just a bad idea, which I don't know what the statistics show, so I can't tell you whether you're more likely to get into an accident sitting there idling and get rear-ended, or if you're more likely to get somebody cut left in front of you, changing lanes just as you're coming up the center. Now, in places say like California, you have lanes specifically meant for motorcycles in between the traffic. Other places, I think, like I'm not sure if it's Australia or New Zealand, they can lane split, but it's like, you're pretty much, you got to tuck your mirrors in to do this, and if you have ape hangers, you're probably going to take out somebody's. You're going to get stuck in between two vehicles. Now, footage-wise, what I would suggest people do before they argue for or against it, sorry, excuse me, is watch footage of lane splitting gone wrong. Just so you can learn from. So, number one, I find anytime you're moving on a motorcycle, your risk increases, right? So we know this. This is just what it is. But what I also noticed is that most people, when they lane split, they're going way, way, way too fast to be able to do anything decisive at all. You have no place to go. You're in between two cars. You're basically in a sandwich. You're in a kill box. So if somebody pulls out in front of you, you're going to rear-end them. If you're doing, like, say, 5 miles per hour, you're probably going to be okay. But the statistics here in Quebec are basically, if you're in a crash, I'll use kilometers per hour because that's what they use up here, and then you can just do your conversion. But a 10 kilometer an hour or less, you're probably 75% likely to have an injury of some sort if you crash at that speed. Whether another vehicle's involved. I'm talking just, falling over in a parking lot, that type of thing. When you get up to 16 kilometers an hour or 10 miles an hour, that increases, pretty much 80-90% you're going to have some sort of an injury. Life debilitating, probably not, but it could happen. And your odds of dying are pretty low. Now let's go up to 25 kilometers an hour, which is basically, how fast is that again? That's about 25 kilometers an hour is, oh jeez, my conversions here. 12 plus, so about 20 miles an hour, 18-20 miles an hour. At that speed, you're 100% likely to have injuries. You're 75% likely to have life. I don't remember the exact, but 50 to 75% likely to have fatal injuries. Now, when you get above 35 kilometers an hour, you're like 95% likely to die. At 50 kilometers an hour, about 35 miles an hour, you're almost 100% likely to die. Guaranteed injuries, severe injuries, that type of thing. So, and any faster than that, you're almost 100% likely to die, and you're going to get severe injuries. Not very few. There's always the story of the guy that was doing 240 kilometers an hour when he wiped out, skipped off the hail base just enough to land into a soft bushel or something like that and walk it off with nothing more than a scratch. Yes, you get those stories, but don't use that guy as your example, because he's like the guy that buys the lottery ticket right after, because that never happens. It's like a 1 in a 10 billion chance that would ever happen, that you'd be unscathed. It has been known to happen, but just don't use those guys as examples, because I hear it all the time. It's like, oh yeah, so one guy, yeah, I skipped off the, I hit the curb and skipped off the grass and just slid, into a nice open field, and the grass was just wet enough that he got no more than grass stains on him. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but he slid for like 500 feet. You know what I mean? Just his pants just got grass stains on him. Like, it's like, how, like, you must have done something really good in your previous life to be allotted that kind of you just burned up like 8 of the 9 lives. That, I'll just say that. But anyway, no, usually it goes horribly wrong. So we know that sustaining injuries on a motorcycle statistically with any sort of a crash whatsoever, regardless of speed, you're going to get hurt. Now, the speed the guys are usually going, like, some guys are cutting between the cars at like 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour. If they're doing 40, they're going pretty fast. If they hit anything, if anybody pulls out at all, and this is the part, like the calculated part, where the guys that are 100% for lane splitting, that I don't know why they don't take this into consideration. This is just, more of a question than a statement, but I'm like, drivers are sporadic, particularly at intersections or when they're stopped. It's like, oh geez, I need to be in the other lane, and they don't even think, because they're not thinking of a motorcycle still moving when the rest of the traffic's not. Is it the fault on them? Yes, but you're still the one that get hurt. That's the way I calculate things. Is I don't care if I'm at fault or not, or if the other guy's completely 100% at fault. I'm the one that's going to end up dead. You know what I mean? And I don't really want to end up dead, or hurt or injured or whatever. So am I going to leave my safety in their hands? To me, no, I don't think that's a good idea. So even if it was legal to lane split, I don't know if I would do it. Have I ever done it? When I was young and stupid? Yes, of course. Did I do it often? No, because after I saw what happened to a friend, he lost a leg, and I think that's what he was like. He was partially to fault. Like, he lane split it, and then he turned left, and basically he came out of 2 parked cars, and then all of a sudden this motorcycle comes darting out, turning left. You know what I mean? The other guy was considered at fault, but the other guy wouldn't have had any time to react in the intersection, so he ended up losing a leg, and that's how he lost it. So just something to consider. I'm not trying to scare you, but that's reality, and that's the way I look at it. I don't know if it's a good idea. That said, how many bikes get rear-ended every year? I don't know the statistic on that. If you do know, please put it down below. If you can do the comparison between lane splitting accident statistics, and basically people being rear-ended statistics. Because if you can have that, then you can make the better choice for yourself. So let's say 52 people a year in your country get rear-ended on a motorcycle, but 51 get hit in a lane split. Then at that point, I think it doesn't really matter. You're pretty much 50-50 there. Let's say, okay, it's the other way around. 12 people get rear-ended and 185 get into lane splitting accidents. Maybe then lane splitting isn't the best, or it's the other way around. Maybe 12 people get into lane splitting accidents and 300 people get rear-ended. Well, then yes, okay, then we'll have a guideline to kind of figure out, is it safer, is it not? And that's, for me, it's preaching to people to tell you to do something or not to do something is pointless, because people are going to do what they're going to do. But all I really want you to do is think for yourself. Is it a good idea to do it or not? The bigger problem I see for myself, maybe it's from ignorance, maybe it's not, but I just don't like the idea of being stuck between 2 vehicles if somebody darts out. And if I am, I'm going to be crawling along at 3 kilometers an hour, or roughly 2 miles an hour, so that I could at least stop if I have to. But I don't like the idea of being between 2 vehicles where I can't go anywhere. There is, like, again, watch for lane splitting fails, because I just think that, yes, you get to the front of the line and all that stuff, but I find a lot of the video footage I see, and I see it mainly with moto vloggers, where they're just, I don't know what it is, but it kind of, and I'm not slagging on them, but I'm just like, wow, this guy is going so fast You might only be doing 10 miles an hour or 12 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour. But I'm like, dude, if anybody does anything, you can't respond to that. You just cannot. The law of 3 seconds will apply here. And I talked about that in another video where it typically takes 3 seconds to be able to do something. From the time you witness something, it'll take you a second to process it and a second to start your maneuver. So it takes 3 seconds just to do that, and it might be up to 6 seconds before you completed the maneuver. So if somebody cuts out in front of you, you just do not have the time to respond, period. By the time you're on the brakes, you're already on the hood of the car, or in the guy's back seat, or whatever. So that's the way I look at it. Maybe it's just me looking at it from a different angle. But from the video footage I just see guys that are trapped in between vehicles at a speed that they have no margin of error there whatsoever. And that's kind of, to me, I'd rather be stuck maybe behind somebody than, yes, where you sit in the lane, I get that. You know, if you're off to the side a bit more, maybe you're a little safer. But I think for me, I just don't see lane splitting as a safe thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, from my point of view, I just see as in a kill box that you're just completely trapped. That said, I'm sure there's going to be hundreds of people arguing, no, you're safe, you're more dangerous sitting there. But again, I would really like to know if there is a statistic that can show if lane splitting is safer or if sitting behind people or sitting in traffic is safer. I would really like to know that. And I think it would, rather than just getting fanboy one way or the other on this video and just saying you should do it or you shouldn't do it, it's not really productive. What's productive is, what do the statistics say, if there's statistics for it. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. So anyway, you guys ride safe and enjoy yourselves and have yourselves a great day.